A woman floats in a dark, red abyss, lost and questioning her whereabouts. She realizes with a start that she cannot control her own body as her eyes flutter open. A mysterious, white-haired woman stands over her, an unknown figure in the hazy darkness. A crushing pressure builds around her throat. She is being choked and cannot move. She struggles for breath against her attacker's grip, desperately wondering who this person is. The chilling realization dawns on her. This strange woman wants her dead. She awakens, finding herself alive but nearly frozen stiff, though she can finally move her limbs again. Sitting up, she examines her hands and clothes, recognizing neither as her own. She stands in an unfamiliar and desolate forest, completely disoriented. Touching her face, the foreignness of her own hands continues to bewilder her. The sight of her hands triggers a flood of memories. She recalls being a renowned physician in the 21st century. She remembers the fame and professional jealousy that came with creating a miraculous, life-saving drug. The memory shifts to a dark and stormy day, filled with dread. She relives the moment she was held down and forced to swallow something against her will. She recalls her assailants arguing about the dosage, dismissing concerns about it being 10 times the normal amount. The men's only concern was to finish the job and leave quickly before being discovered. She reflects on the cruel irony of meeting her end by the very medicine she created to save others. The truth settles in. She has not only survived her own murder, but has also been transported back in time. She is left to ponder the identity of the woman from her dream and the motive behind the murderous attack. Ultimately, she resolves that being alive is a good thing, no matter the circumstances. Given this second chance at life, she vows that she will not let it go to waste. She makes a firm decision. In this new lifetime, no one will ever push her around again. It begins to rain, stirring up an uneasy feeling within her. She knows she must quickly find a place to escape the downpour. A nearby temple catches her eye, seeming like a perfect place for shelter. As she approaches, she notices she is not alone. Someone is there on horseback. She is immediately taken aback by the man's striking good looks. She muses on the unexpected dangers of this ancient world, where one can be hit by falling humans. The man's horse bolts, and she instinctively calls out to it for abandoning its owner. She turns to the unconscious man and apologizes for her inability to stop his horse from running off. The man lies still on the ground, clearly injured and weakened. She observes his pale face and darkened lips, diagnosing him with poison and telling him not to move. The man awakens and immediately accuses her of being one of his attackers. She grows exasperated as he faints again, right after she warned him, and she now debates saving him at all. Despite her resolve, her physician's instincts take over. She cannot abandon someone who needs medical help. Besides, she admits to herself, it would be a shame to let such a handsome man die. She struggles under his weight, finding him incredibly heavy as she drags him towards the temple. Exhausted but successful, she manages to get him inside, amazed at her own strength. She watches him sleep, thinking he looks much more agreeable when unconscious. She smiles as his eyes open, believing he has finally come to. Her relief turns to shock as he holds a knife to her throat, asking if she plans to kill him. He presses the blade against her skin, demanding to know why she saved him. She is utterly baffled by his aggression, insisting she had no ulterior motive. He remains distrustful, convinced she is allied with the mysterious them. She thinks he must be delirious to be so certain, wondering who his enemies even are. He grows more insistent, pressing the knife harder as he demands she speak. She silently bemoans her terrible luck, thinking time travel in stories usually involves better circumstances. He issues a final warning, threatening her if she doesn't answer immediately. Before she can respond, he collapses and faints once more. She questions her own judgment, wondering why she bothered with such a troublesome person and deciding to prioritize her own safety. As a precaution, she takes his knife before she leaves. She turns away, fully intending to abandon him and the temple. Yet she cannot take another step. The heart of a doctor compels her to stay and help. Resigned, she decides she must examine his wounds properly and turns him over. She is shocked to find that his entire body is covered in injuries. The wound in his abdomen seems to be the most serious of all. Outside, the relentless rain complicates any attempt at treatment. She feels a sense of dread, realizing that without any medical supplies, helping him will be a formidable task. She then spots his hairpin and notices it's made of pure silver, sparking an idea. Recalling her skills as a top-tier physician, she feels confident she can use the pin to hit pressure points and stop his bleeding. First, she must sterilize the pin in the flame of a nearby candle. With her makeshift instrument prepared, she steels herself for the procedure. A sudden wave of bashfulness hits her as she realizes she will have to remove his clothes. For a moment, she is completely flustered by the sight of his perfect physique. She quickly shakes her head, reminding herself to focus on the urgent task at hand. She prays before a statue, telling herself not to be distracted and that a life is on the line. A doctor must treat every patient equally, she reasons, though she admits this one is unusually distracting. The awkward location of the wound makes her nervous about what she might accidentally see. She sighs, reaffirming that his life is more important than her momentary embarrassment. Upon exposing the wound, she finds the broken shaft of an arrow and knows the poison must be on its tip. Using the sterilized pin, she skillfully seals the acupuncture points around the injury, noting his condition is critical. She discovers a hook on the arrowhead, realizing that simply pulling it out would tear the flesh further. She concludes that the only way to remove it is to carefully cut the tissue around the wound. Just as she prepares to cut, the man jolts awake, demanding to know what she is doing. Startled, she explains that she is treating his poisoned wound to save his life. He weakly protests, citing the impropriety of an unmarried man and woman being in such close contact. She dismisses his concern, stating that doctors are beyond such conventions when a life is at stake. She tells him to endure the pain, assuring him it will be quick. He relents, closing his eyes and telling her to proceed with whatever she must do. Seeing the amount of blood, she steels her nerves and focuses on the area around the wound. She extracts the arrowhead, impressed that he withstood the immense pain without making a single sound. She silently gives him her respect for his stoicism and endurance. He faintly murmurs that he has medicine in his pouch. She feels a surge of annoyance, wondering why he hadn't told her sooner. She quickly finds the small vial of medicine. She examines the contents, concluding it must be some form of traditional anti-inflammatory and blood-clotting powder. She instructs him to hold still as she applies the medicine to his wound. She finds herself blushing, again flustered by the proximity to his bare torso. He weakly tells her she is not allowed to look at him. She retorts that she has already seen everything, so there is no point in him complaining now. She feels it's his own fault for waking up at the most inopportune moment. She quickly pulls his robes over him to cover him up. He glares at her, his thoughts consumed with the desire to kill her. She senses his anger and hesitates, wondering if she should still bandage his wound. He insists he can manage it himself. She firmly tells him to come closer. She takes the bandages, ordering him to hand them over. She chides him for acting strong when he is clearly not, pointing out that his stubbornness only wastes time. She finds his shyness as a grown man completely strange. She muses that she has never met anyone so shy, deciding it's best not to agitate him further. She struggles to apply the bandage properly due to the wound's location. She momentarily worries if an accidental touch might be considered molestation. He warns her again not to move so recklessly. She cries out in surprise as her hand touches something unexpectedly spicy on his skin. She insists she is only trying to help, baffled that he might think she has other intentions. He shouts at her to shut up and hurry up with the bandaging. She bites her lip and complies, muttering that the patient is always right. She notices the cold wind blowing into the temple and worries for his weakened condition. She is relieved to find a small pile of firewood in a corner of the temple. Watching her, he reconsiders his initial judgment, thinking she may not have evil intentions after all. As she builds a fire, he finally asks who she is and what she is doing there. His question triggers a vivid nightmare of the white-haired woman, Yun Kai-Zhu, accusing her of breaking a jade pendant. The nightmare continues with her past self begging her sister for forgiveness. Her sister's cold reply echoes in the dream, questioning if there will be a next time. In the dream, her sister calls her a shameless mistress. The dream version of her sister declares that she should never have existed in this world. She wakes up with a start, shouting for the woman in her dream to go away. The man overhears her tormented words and asks if someone is trying to harm her as well. He seems to feel a sense of camaraderie, realizing they are both being pursued by enemies. Seeing the loneliness in his expression, her heart softens with empathy. She feels they are two birds of a feather. She smiles faintly, wondering if their meeting was orchestrated by fate. Her thoughts are interrupted when she sees the fire is about to die out. Just then, the man instructs her to extinguish the fire completely. She is completely baffled, questioning why he would want to put out their only source of warmth. She angrily confronts him after he puts out the flames. He quickly pulls her into a hiding spot and silences her, whispering that people are coming. He listens intently to the sounds outside, discerning from the many footsteps that a large group has arrived. She understands now that his enemies have found them, and their situation is dire. He pulls her along, urging her to hide despite her protests about propriety. She laments her terrible luck, realizing her association with him could very well get her killed. Outside, the attackers begin to search the area, determined to find their target. He whispers a plan to her, saying he will knock them out so they can escape. The pursuers burst into the temple, one of them tripping as they command their prey to surrender. An attacker, surprised, notes that their random searching actually led them to their targets. The injured man signals impatiently to his subordinate, who seems to be hesitating. He gestures for her to come to him. Their hiding spot has been compromised. He instructs her to get on the horse waiting outside. They burst out of the temple on horseback, as the attackers yell to stop them. The horse kicks one of the men as they gallop away, and the leader furiously orders his men to give chase. They ride hard, trying to outpace their pursuers. The attackers are confident, believing that with two people on one horse, they will soon catch up. She feels a sense of panic, wondering how they will escape. The leader of the pursuers taunts them, declaring that they have nowhere left to run. A deep sense of regret washes over her for ever saving him, as it has only led her to this deadly chase. She is torn between feelings of hatred, regret, and sadness towards the man she saved. He turns to her and sincerely apologizes for dragging her into his dangerous affairs. She is momentarily swayed by his handsome face and is about to forgive him. He then remarks grimly that at least he will have someone to die with him. His comment infuriates her, and she retorts, questioning who would ever want to die with him. Their pursuers finally close in and surround them. One of the attackers leaps forward, ready to strike. The rest of the group charges in unison. The prince looks on, his patience worn thin by their relentless pursuit. She is still reeling from his callous remark. Her anger boils over, and she blames him entirely for the life-threatening situation she is in. A fierce determination fills her. She will not let herself die here. She quickly pulls out the knife she had taken from him earlier. She holds the blade to his neck, ordering him not to move a muscle. The attackers halt, amused and surprised by this unexpected betrayal. She yells to the attackers, proposing a deal: his life for her freedom. Their leader readily agrees, promising to let her live if she hands the man over. The man looks at her with disbelief and betrayal, concluding that he gravely misjudged her. She screams at him, blaming him for all the trouble and suffering she has endured since meeting him. He grits his teeth in anger, lamenting that he should have killed her with a single strike when he had the chance. She warns him again not to move, threatening to kill him if he does. She knows she must act decisively. Her own survival is all that matters now. She informs the attackers that she is leaving him to them and turns to go. She intends to mount the horse and ride away, leaving him to his fate. As she moves to leave, he grabs her arm tightly and she cries out, asking why he's holding her. She struggles against his grip, shocked by his immense strength. He drags her toward a nearby river, and she frantically asks what he's doing. She screams for him to let her go, shouting that if he wants to die, he can do it alone. The leader of the attackers urges his men to chase after the fleeing pair. He tells her to jump into the river, but she hesitates, frozen in fear. She closes her eyes in despair, believing she is doomed. As she plunges into the water, she realizes with horror that she cannot swim. She sinks beneath the surface, cursing her unbelievably bad luck. She laments the cruel twist of fate that has her dying for a second time, right after being reincarnated. As she sinks, she flails desperately, trying to grab onto anything for survival. She manages to climb onto his shoulders, and he grunts that he cannot support her. He shouts at her angrily, telling her to get down immediately if she wants to live. She is taken aback by the fierceness in his voice. She agrees to get down but clutches him from behind, which makes him protest in embarrassment. He complains that her clinging to him is far too embarrassing. When she asks him what he said, he quickly denies having said anything. He instructs her to hold her breath and relax her body so they can float downstream. They successfully evade their pursuers, as the men on the riverbank cannot swim and are left to argue. She turns back and sticks her tongue out at the stranded attackers. She laughs with relief, celebrating that they are no longer being followed. Her celebration is cut short when she notices the man looks unwell. He tells her he cannot hold on any longer and that they must get to shore immediately. She sees the deathly pallor of his face and suddenly remembers his severe wounds. She spots a large tree near the bank and suggests they use its branches to pull themselves out of the water. Exhausted, she collapses onto the shore, overwhelmed with relief to be on solid ground. She tears up, thinking they are finally safe from harm. Her relief shatters when he collapses face first at the water's edge. She rushes to him, begging him not to die. A wave of panic washes over her as she realizes the gravity of their situation. With great effort, she manages to drag his unconscious body into a nearby cave. She examines his wound and is dismayed to see it has reopened, making her earlier treatment futile. She desperately searches his clothes, realizing with a sinking heart that they left the ointment and flint behind. With no fire and no medicine, she feels utter despair, believing his death is now inevitable. Just as she loses all hope, she notices mysterious, glowing herbs near the entrance of the cave. She recognizes the plant as a natural styptic and painkiller. A wave of relief washes over her. This discovery might just be enough to save him. However, she knows the most critical issue remains unresolved. He is freezing from his wet clothes and needs warmth. She contemplates her options and realizes there is only one possible solution. She must use her own body to provide him with the warmth he needs to survive. She hesitates, acknowledging that as a research-obsessed doctor, she has never even held a man's hand. She is torn between her medical duty and her personal boundaries, questioning whether to save him or not. She looks at his peaceful, sleeping face and knows she cannot bring herself to watch him die. She touches his forehead and is alarmed to find he is burning with a high fever. Her resolve solidifies. As a doctor, she must at least try to save him. The next morning, he awakens and slowly pieces together that she used her body heat to keep him alive. She murmurs in her sleep, saying she wants something. Still half asleep, she protests someone taking away her food. She opens her eyes and is momentarily confused, wondering why the face above her looks so familiar. She suddenly remembers him holding her hand while lecturing her about propriety. She's annoyed that he seems so calm after his crafty actions the previous night. She calls him a rascal and raises her hand to strike him. He effortlessly catches her wrist, asking what she thinks she is doing. He coldly tells her to turn around and not to face him. He teases her, saying that while he didn't see everything, she was the one who initiated contact. She tells him to stop dragging out the moment and not to look at her anymore. He agrees not to look and tells her to put on her clothes first. He silently reflects on the events of the previous night. She nervously wonders if he is going to demand some form of compensation for her actions. She feels that a simple "thank you" is not enough to absolve him of what happened. She confronts him directly, asking why he dragged her into the river when she could have escaped alone. He calmly replies that it was because he needed a doctor. His simple, selfish reason infuriates her, and she regrets saving him all over again. She announces that she is going to check his wound. He reacts with alarm, clutching his robes shut. She reassures him she is not charging for the service and asks why he is so nervous. She informs him that his wound is stable, but he still has residual poison and needs to rest. She finds him detestable, but can't manage to stay angry at him for long. He declares that it is time for them to leave the cave. She feels a wave of exhaustion and asks where they are going now. He informs her that their destination is the main road. She complains about her fatigue and asks when they will be able to rest. She also expresses her fear of running into their pursuers again. As if on cue, a group of men on horseback appear, announcing that they have found him. He smiles slightly, remarking on their impeccable timing. She turns to him in alarm and asks if he knows these men. The newcomers dismount and bow deeply, with one apologizing for failing to protect him. He nonchalantly tells them not to worry about it, leaving her utterly confused. A guard informs the prince that they will now escort him back to his residence. She suddenly has a flashback to her very unpleasant first meeting with him. The memory of him holding a knife to her throat is still fresh and unsettling. Realizing who he is, she decides this is her chance to slip away unnoticed. The prince, however, notices her attempt to flee and coolly orders his men to bring her back. A guard catches her, asking the prince for instructions on what to do with her. She immediately begins to plead for her life, promising the benevolent prince that she saw nothing. He asks for her address, offering to have his men escort her home. She is at a loss for words, as she doesn't know her own identity, let alone where she lives. He then suggests taking her to the city, from where she can try to find her family. Her eyes widen in amazement at the grand and bustling city before her. She tugs on his sleeve, announcing that she is hungry and wants to eat. He tells her they will find a place to eat once they are properly inside the city. She beams with excitement at the thought of a good meal. She points to a large, inviting restaurant and suggests they eat there. She expresses concern that it might be too expensive, but a guard assures her the prince can afford it. An attendant welcomes them warmly into the establishment. An extravagant feast is laid out before them on the table. She eagerly announces that she is about to dig in. The prince watches her, a look of bewilderment on his face. He is completely stunned by her ravenous appetite as she devours the food. He muses internally that he has never witnessed a woman eat with such gusto. She catches him staring and asks him what he is looking at. She playfully asks if watching her eat is stimulating his appetite. She boasts that her presence alone should make him want to eat 3 extra bowls of rice. He thinks to himself that her eating habits are having the exact opposite effect on him. After finishing her meal, she leans back with a satisfied sigh, proclaiming she is full. She notices that he has barely touched his food and asks if his wound is bothering him. She presses the matter, questioning if pain is the reason for his lack of appetite. He curtly denies that his wound hurts at all. She offers him some tea, telling him there is no need to be embarrassed if it does hurt. She sympathizes that a wound in that location must be quite painful, but he simply scoffs. She decides to write him a prescription to ensure his full recovery. She calls over a waitress and asks for brush and ink. He examines the prescription she wrote and is appalled by the terrible handwriting. She defensively argues that her penmanship doesn't matter as long as the instructions are legible. He folds the paper and tells her to ensure someone gets the medicine for him. Back on the bustling street, she looks around with childlike wonder. She is captivated by a display of exquisite golden jewelry. The prince watches her with a pensive expression, noting she seems like someone who has never seen the world. Yet, her confident manner of speaking suggests she is not from a poor family. She asks if it would be all right for her to look around by herself for a while. He agrees and generously offers to buy her anything she desires. She smiles brightly, happily accepting his offer to take advantage of his wealth. She feels a thrill, thinking she can finally leverage the fact that she saved the life of a rich prince. She finds herself drawn to a stall selling rare and beautiful cosmetics. She fantasizes about showing off such treasures if she ever makes it back to her own time. The shopkeeper approaches and asks what she would like to see, and she points to several products. The vendor suggests a particular lip tint, saying its color would perfectly complement her natural beauty. She brings the small pot to her nose, delighting in the sweet scent of roses. The shopkeeper proudly explains it is made with flower essences, similar to a famous cosmetic from a well-known story. The product is all natural and boasts a beautifully deep red color. She remembers reading about this very item in a novel and is overcome with the desire to have it. She briefly considers that the price is too low for a prince, but the shopkeeper directs her attention elsewhere. The vendor points to a lady nearby, showing how striking the lip tint looks when worn. Her eyes follow the vendor's gesture, and her blood runs cold. She recognizes the woman instantly. It's the woman from her nightmares. A chill runs down her spine as she recalls that every time she dreamed of this woman, the dream always ended with her being strangled. She begins to suspect that her dreams were not mere fiction, but actual memories of her death. She resolves to get a closer look at the woman who killed her. She wants to see the look on her murderer's face when she realizes her victim is still alive, and she slams the pot down. The shopkeeper immediately protests, demanding that she pay for the product she has already opened. She ignores him, her focus entirely on confronting her past tormentor. The woman, Yun Qianzu, complains to her maid about being forced by her father to wear an outfit she dislikes. The maid showers her with flattery, calling her the most beautiful woman in the entire region. The maid continues to praise her, saying her beauty is so great she needs a veil to ward off endless suitors. The maid poses a rhetorical question about whether anyone in the district could possibly be as beautiful as her. Before Yun Qianzu can reply, the maid's eyes go wide with shock as she spots someone and exclaims, "Second sister." Yun Qianzun steps forward, challenging the maid about her claims of beauty. The title second sister confirms her suspicion. She is part of this wealthy family. She leans in menacingly towards the maid, asking what she means, since the second sister is supposedly dead. The terrified maid points a trembling finger at Yun Qianzun, stammering that the second sister is a ghost from the spirit realm. Yun Qianzu turns around and gasps in shock, asking if she is a human or a ghost. Yun Qianzun's eyes glow an eerie red as she asks her sister what she thinks. She lets out a low moan, pretending to be a spirit seeking its soul. Yun Qianzu panics completely, pleading with the ghost to stop haunting her. The maid begs the ghost not to harm her elder sister, admitting she may have done some wrong. Yun Qianzun declares that the only soul she wants is that of the eldest lady of the house. Terrified, Yun Qianzu screams for her maid to come and help her. The maid rushes to intervene, but Yun Qianzun refuses to let her sister go. She wonders if her sister ever considered her perspective before killing her. She glares at her sister, calling her a despicable woman for murdering her own kin. Yun Qianzu denies everything, venomously calling her a worthless daughter of a concubine. Yun Qianzun slaps her hard across the face, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. Yun Qianzu screams that it was her own fault for breaking their mother's jade pendant. She insists that she died for good reason, and that a ghost cannot harm her in broad daylight. The maid rushes to Yun Qianzu's side, begging her to stop antagonizing her ghost sister. The sting of the slap makes Yun Qianzu realize that she is facing a living person, not a spirit. Yun Qianzun scoffs, saying that if she were a ghost, her sister would already be in the underworld. Yun Qianzu is furious, enraged that she is not only alive but also dared to strike her. Yun Qianzun coldly states that a slap is nothing compared to what her sister did to her. She observes her sister's defiant expression and sees she is completely unwilling to change. She reflects that the previous owner of her body must have lived a miserable life with such a sister. She declares that from now on, she will hit and scold her sister as she pleases. She vows that she will never allow her sister to push her around again. Yun Qianzu insists she is going too far, but she retorts that her actions are justified. Her sister repeats the accusation, her voice filled with outrage. Yun Qianzun is surprised by the sudden, dramatic shift in her sister's demeanor. She briefly wonders if her sister is finally feeling a pang of guilt for her actions. She is jolted back to reality when she notices that a large crowd has gathered to watch them. A man in the crowd identifies the beautiful lady as Yun Qianzu, the Prime Minister's daughter. Another person expresses confusion as to why the renowned beauty is arguing with her sister in public. Someone else claims they overheard the argument and that the older sister tried to strangle the younger one. A naive onlooker dismisses the rumor, unable to believe someone so beautiful could be evil. A nearby woman scolds the man for his naivety, reminding him not to judge people by their looks. Another observer points out Yun Qianzu's swollen cheek, concluding that the younger sister is cruel for hitting her. Yun Qianzun realizes with frustration that the crowd's gossip is turning against her. Yun Qianzu seizes the opportunity, beginning a tearful performance about being wronged. She cries that even if she did something wrong, her sister should not have slapped her in public. She breaks down in tears, begging her younger sister not to be angry anymore. Yun Qianzun is momentarily stunned by her sister's incredible acting skills. Yun Qianzu continues her act, tearfully claiming that everything is her fault. She offers a false apology, her face a picture of contrived remorse. Yun Qianzun panics, realizing her attempt to scare her sister has backfired spectacularly. She gets a sinking feeling as she watches the scene unfold. Yun Qianzu embraces her, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. A man in the crowd is moved, remarking on the older sister's love for the younger one. Another person agrees, praising the older sister for being both beautiful and kind-hearted. The crowd is now convinced that Yun Qianzun is the willful, cruel sister. She understands that the crowd is judging based on appearances, and she cannot let her sister win. Yun Qianzu continues to cry, believing she has successfully played her final card. Yun Qianzun decides to fight fire with fire and begins to cry as well, accepting all the blame. The crowd is now completely confused, with some calling her performance fake. She realizes with dismay that she has only managed to piss off the crowd. She wonders if her acting skills are just that bad, or if her words were unconvincing. Frustrated that her fake tears have failed, she knows she needs a new strategy. She confesses to accidentally breaking their mother's jade bangle. She plays the part of the lowly, non-heir daughter, saying she deserves to be scolded. She tells her sister that she deserved it even if she wanted to strangle her to death. Her words cause a stir in the crowd as they realize her status as a non-heir child. The public opinion shifts again, with people now suspecting the older sister of bullying her. Yun Qianzu watches her, realizing with a shock that this is no longer the timid sister she once knew. Yun Qianzun smirks, silently asking her sister if she has any more tricks up her sleeve. She then feigns concern, suggesting her sister's schizophrenia has worsened. She inwardly scoffs at how exaggerated her sister's performance has become. Yun Qianzu plays along, declaring she will take her ill sister home to be cured, pulling her into a tight hug. The maid joins the act, crying out in feigned distress over her miss's sudden relapse. The crowd is now completely convinced, murmuring in pity for the poor thing with schizophrenia. She tries to protest, telling the crowd not to believe her sister's lies. A well-meaning man offers to fetch a carriage to help take the sick girl home. In a private room, Yun Qianzu's demeanor changes, and she glares at her with pure hatred. She tells her that she should have been grateful to have survived the first time. Instead, she had the audacity to show up and challenge her in public. She declares that now, Yun Kyan-zun has no choice but to die. She raises her hand, threatening to slap her back for the earlier insult. Yun Kyan-zun remains calm, asking her sister if she is scared or feels any guilt. She points out that their public spectacle has already drawn unwanted attention, and further fighting would damage their family's reputation. Realizing the truth in her words, Yun Kyan-zu lowers her hand for now. She warns her that this is not over and that she will deal with her back at the manor. Yun Kyan-zun braces herself for what is to come, feeling that she has no choice in the matter. Her sister shoves her toward the waiting carriage. The servants at the manor are shocked to see the second young miss has returned. A servant runs ahead to announce her unexpected arrival to the master of the house. A silver-haired noblewoman defends her younger sister, pointing out the suffering she has endured and asking that she not be treated so fiercely. The younger sister reacts with a silent curse, frustrated at the suggestion that her reprimand should be delayed. The plea to postpone any scolding for a few days hangs in the air. An authoritative man with a blindfold sternly orders the young woman to go to her room and rest now that she has returned. He walks off in a huff, telling her not to stir up any more trouble. She is utterly bewildered by the accusation, wondering what trouble she could have possibly caused. The injustice stings. She just got back home, only to be immediately reprimanded for no reason. She begins to question if anyone in this family truly appreciates her at all. A wave of sadness washes over her as she wonders if anyone is genuinely happy she has returned. A young man's voice calls out, affectionately addressing her as second sister. She senses a genuine sincerity and kinship in his call, a stark contrast to the insincerity she feels from Kyan-zu. Her brother is overwhelmed with emotion, confessing he feared he would never see her again. She tries to comfort him, pointing out that she is standing before him perfectly fine. He looks at her with concern, noticing that she is not in a good condition despite her words. He observes that she's lost weight and insists on taking her away to rest immediately. He happily leads his sister by the hand, eager to see her settled. The silver-haired woman instructs the young man to let his sister have a good rest and not to disturb her. He promises his sister he will see her again tomorrow after she has rested well. A servant escorts the second young miss, urging her to return to her room. A small smile forms on her face. At least one person in the manor truly cares, which makes the others' opinions irrelevant. As she walks, she takes in the surroundings, realizing this must be a very wealthy family. The architecture and intricate carvings all speak to the high status of a prime minister's household. A sense of unease grows as her maid leads her towards a conspicuously old and distant courtyard. The maid announces her departure, leaving the second young miss to face her new quarters alone. She is shocked to realize this is where she is meant to stay. This place looks more like servants' quarters than a room befitting a young miss of the manor. She bitterly recalls the common, saying that non-heir children have no rights. She reflects on her new reality as the lowly, non-heir daughter of this powerful family. The rundown courtyard is a stark confirmation of her place in this household. A young maid appears at the door, surprised to see the second young miss has returned. The maid, Qiu, is overjoyed, exclaiming that she is finally back. The two embrace tightly, the maid confessing she always knew she would come back. The maid is overcome with emotion, relieved to finally see her mistress's return. The second young miss is momentarily flustered by the intense display of affection. She awkwardly accepts the comfort, knowing the maid assumes she must have suffered greatly while she was away. Qiu asks where she has been for the past few days. The second young miss playfully deflects, claiming she has no idea where she was. Qiu relays the official story told by the big young miss. They were separated, and the master sent out servants to search. The maid adds that with no news, no one expected her to simply return on her own. The protagonist realizes her sister conveniently omitted the part where she tried to kill her. If she hadn't bumped into her sister by chance on the street, she would never have made it back home at all. She dismisses her maid's persistent questions about where she's been. Changing the subject, she asks about her younger brother. Qiu explains that the young master was distraught, throwing tantrums daily and wanting to search for her himself. However, the master and the big young miss forbade him from leaving the manor, citing concerns for his safety. The maid finds her questions strange, reminding her that she grew up in the manor and should know these things better than anyone. The protagonist yawns, casually brushing off the interrogation as just asking for fun. She declares she is tired and needs a nap, politely refusing the maid's offer to help her change. She continues to refuse any help, insisting she can manage on her own. Qiu respectfully departs, wishing her mistress a good rest. Alone, the protagonist begins to piece together the family structure. The Prime Minister has 2 sons and 2 daughters. The eldest son and daughter are the children of the Prime Minister's official wife. The young man she met, Yun Fan, is her younger brother, and they are both non-heir children. She and her brother were born to a woman named Concubine Wen. The concubine's health failed after their birth, and she passed away 2 years ago, leaving a memorial tablet behind. Since their mother's death, the 2 siblings have only had each other. Their father, Yun Guoyang, dotes heavily on his eldest daughter, Yun Zhu. He pays little attention to his other daughter, the one whose body she now occupies, because she is considered less beautiful. Her younger brother, Yun Fan, is also doted on by their father as the youngest child. This leaves her character, Yun Zun, as the only child in the family who is truly unloved and neglected. The full, horrifying reality of her situation finally sinks in. This is not the typical transmigration story, where the heroine becomes an all-powerful character. She wonders why, of all fates, she had to become a lowly and unloved second daughter. As she drifts off to sleep, she half-jokingly wonders if it's because she's an idiot. She muses on the cruel irony of sharing a name with her past self, but having such a drastically different status. She realizes that if she continues to stay in this manor, she will only face continued bullying. A sigh escapes her. Returning to the manor was clearly not a good idea. She concludes that Yun Zhu's willful and unruly nature must have been inherited from her mother. Her maid, Qiu, urgently wakes her, warning that the madam will cause trouble if she's found still in bed. She protests that she's a patient who was explicitly told by her father to rest. Qiu reminds her of past punishments, emphasizing that the madam is not an easy person to get along with. Understanding that the maid is only trying to protect her, she finally agrees to get up. She prepares herself, correctly assuming that the approaching beautiful, middle-aged woman is the Prime Minister's wife. The madam enters with a sharp tone, remarking that Yun Zun has certainly got more daring. Yun Zun formally greets the woman as mother. The madam immediately confronts her, having heard that she slapped her older sister. She questions her audacity and lack of respect for her elders and the family hierarchy. The protagonist understands she is being publicly shamed in front of the household staff. In that case, she decides she will speak her mind freely. She challenges the madam's biased judgment, questioning why a slap is a grave offense while her sister's attempt to kill her is ignored. Internally, she gives herself a pat on the back for her convincing performance. The madam is visibly shocked. The Yun Zun of the past would have never spoken back so loudly. The madam is bewildered by this change, finding her so eloquent that she seems like a completely different person. The protagonist demands to know why justice is reserved only for the older sister, while her own suffering is dismissed. She implies that the madam knows perfectly well who was truly at fault in the incident. She offers a truce. If the madam handles the matter with fairness, she will listen quietly to what she has to say. But if the madam chooses to protect only her favored daughter, she vows to seek justice, even at the cost of her own life. The madam bristles, questioning if this is an appropriate way to address the lady of the manor. The protagonist stands firm, replying that this is simply how she speaks to her mother. The madam scoffs with contempt, rejecting the title of mother. The protagonist maintains a cheerful facade, insisting that the madam is, of course, her mother. She claims she has always respected the madam, as if she were her birth mother, but questions if that sentiment was ever returned. Since the madam has never seen her as a daughter, things are about to change. She declares forcefully that she will no longer call her mother. The madam is speechless with rage at this public defiance. She slams her hand on the table, shouting that this behavior is out of hand. The servants whisper in amazement at the second young Mrs. sudden boldness, with one finding it so cool. The protagonist counters that she is merely speaking the truth about the madam's failure to perform her duties as a mother. The madam's fury escalates, unable to believe the audacity of the girl's words. The protagonist calmly alludes to past events, suggesting the madam knows very well what she and her daughter have done. The servants' curiosity is piqued, and they begin to whisper among themselves. The madam furiously silences them with a sharp command. The servants cower, while the protagonist issues a veiled threat, warning her stepmother not to force her to reveal everything. She makes it clear that the truth would bring shame upon them all. The madam cuts her off with a furious shout. She orders her guards to seize the unruly girl at once. The loyal maid, Qiu, bravely steps in front of her mistress to protect her. Despite her fear, Qiu stands her ground, pleading for them not to come over. A guard violently shoves the maid out of the way. A flash of rage crosses the protagonist's face As she sees her maid harmed, she declares her status as the second young miss of the manor and challenges anyone to dare touch her. The madam berates her guards, calling them a useless bunch of fools. She is incensed that they cannot even handle a single defiant girl. The maid kneels and begs the madam to spare her mistress, pleading that she has only just returned. The madam coldly dismisses the maid, stating she is merely teaching her unreasonable stepdaughter a lesson. She then orders the maid to be removed from her sight. She repeats her command for the guards to grab the protagonist. The protagonist grabs a heavy vase, threatening to bloody anyone who dares to take another step. The two guards hesitate, each pushing the other to go forward, clearly unwilling to test her threat. The madam fumes, utterly exasperated that her guards are being held at bay by one girl. The protagonist declares that, while she once respected the madam as a mother, that respect is now gone. She accuses her of being unworthy of her title, after her own daughter nearly strangled her to death over a broken bangle. She calls her an evil woman, eager to punish her the moment she returned to the manor. The madam internally refutes the accusation, insisting she only wanted to discipline her for being disrespectful. She feels her intentions have been twisted to make her sound like a murderer. She yells at the protagonist to stop spouting nonsense, reiterating that she never intended to harm her. The protagonist mockingly suggests the madam is surprised she's still alive and is just eager to punish her now that she has the chance. Pushed to her limit, the madam orders her guards to beat the girl to death. The protagonist calmly points out to the guards that everyone just heard the madam claim she never wanted to harm her. With a wicked grin, she declares that any action she takes from this point on will be considered self-defense. The guards are baffled by this turn of events, remembering how the second young miss used to be meek and submissive. The madam loses her temper completely and lunges forward to strike the girl herself. The protagonist swiftly catches her stepmother's wrist, stopping the attack cold. With a chilling smile, she announces that the tables have now turned. The servants scream in terror, believing the second young miss has murdered the madam. They rush to the fallen woman, wailing that she has suffered a terrible death. The loyal maid, Qiu, runs to her mistress, concerned for her well-being while questioning what happened to the madam. The protagonist looks down at her unconscious stepmother with cold satisfaction, stating that she got what she deserved. Qiu panics about the madam's death, but her mistress calmly reassures her that she is not dead. She snaps at the gawking servants, ordering them to call for doctor at once. The guards are confused, protesting that there's no point since she killed the madam. She scoffs at their incompetence, telling them to listen to her if they actually want to save their mistress. The maids, seeing who is now in charge, quickly agree to follow her orders. Satisfied, she dispatches them to the kitchen to fetch ashes immediately. The maids hurry away to do as they are told. She knows she carefully avoided any fatal points. Stopping the bleeding is all that's needed to ensure the woman will be fine. She turns to the remaining servants and asks them to confirm that they all witnessed what just happened. The frightened servants stammer that they saw everything. She then pointedly asks them to recount exactly how the madam got hurt. A servant quietly whispers that it was a blow from the second young miss. With a cheerful demeanor, the protagonist corrects the record. The madam's head accidentally ran into the vase. Qiu immediately backs her up, declaring that the second young miss is always right. The protagonist skillfully manipulates the servants, pointing out the dire consequences for them if the truth gets out. She reminds them of their failure to protect the madam, suggesting the prime minister would not be pleased. The servants quickly adopt the new story, agreeing that the madam's injury was an accident that had nothing to do with the second young miss. She then instructs them to carry the unconscious madam back to her room. The maids whisper anxiously, wondering what they should tell the madam when she finally wakes up. She provides them with a script, suggesting they tell the madam that a dignified lady shouldn't concern herself with a lowly daughter, as it would bring disgrace upon everyone. She adds a playful but menacing warning. If the harassment continues, the madam might not be so lucky next time. The terrified maids agree to deliver the message. As a final command, she tells them to clean up the mess before they leave. Qiu voices her worry that the big young miss will certainly seek revenge when she learns of this. The protagonist lies down calmly, stating with confidence that she is waiting for her. Her sister, Yun Qianzu, bursts in, furious and threatening death for daring to harm their mother. The protagonist calmly reassures her worried maid, telling her not to be afraid. She confidently tells Qiu that she has a plan to handle the situation. The maid marvels at how much her second young miss has changed today. Her older sister vows that she will not be forgiven for what she has done. The protagonist coolly taunts her sister, inviting her to try and do something about it. The older sister seethes, calling her a stupid girl. In a swift movement, the protagonist holds a dagger to her sister's throat, silencing her. She calmly comments on her sister's pretty face, wondering aloud what a scar might look like on it. Her sister is frozen in shock and fear, unable to believe her audacity. The protagonist explains that having already died once, she is no longer afraid of anything. Her sister breaks down, pleading and reminding her that they are sisters. The protagonist coldly asks if her sister remembered their familial bond when she was trying to kill her. The older sister immediately changes her tune, tearfully apologizing and begging her magnanimous younger sister for forgiveness. The maid watches in disbelief, having never seen the proud, big young miss act so submissive. Her sister continues to plead, asking her good sister to please let her off. The protagonist gives a final warning, reminding her sister that she brought this upon herself and that there will not be a second chance. Her sister flees the room, shouting a final threat over her shoulder. The following day, an air of calm has settled over the courtyard. Qiu awakens her mistress, informing her that the master wishes to see her in the living hall. The protagonist smirks, thinking to herself that it is now time to settle some debts. The maid is flustered by her mistress's confident and beautiful appearance. She nervously warns her mistress to be careful, certain that the madam and her sister have already complained to the master. The maid frets that the master always favors them, but the protagonist confidently reassures her that she knows what to do. She calmly calls for Qiu to accompany her. The maid can't help but admire how beautiful her second young miss looks today. She enters the hall and offers a respectful greeting to her father. Her father greets her with annoyance, questioning why she is only now paying her respects so late in the day. She calmly explains that she was recovering from the shock of her disappearance, which caused her to oversleep. Her father dismisses her explanation, getting straight to the point and demanding to know how the madam was injured. She sticks to the fabricated story, stating that the madam had an unfortunate accident. He eyes her with suspicion, clearly not believing her, and asking if there is another reason. She meets his gaze, asking him what he would like to know. He observes her closely, noting a newfound determination in her eyes that makes her seem like a different person. He asks her directly if she was involved in the madam's accident. She gives a frank and immediate answer, admitting her involvement. Her father is taken aback by her honesty and questions if she feels any guilt at all. She replies that everything happens for a reason and pivots, asking if he isn't curious about the events between her and the madam, prompting a lecture on her manners. Internally, she grows frustrated that he is avoiding the main point of the conflict. She explains that the madam herself instructed her to stop calling her mother, leaving her no choice but to use the more formal title. Her father appears surprised by this revelation. She expresses her disappointment that his first concern was for the madam's injury, not for her own well-being after being missing for 2 days. He coughs uncomfortably, making a weak attempt to show concern, which she finds utterly pathetic. She offers a sarcastic thanks for his belated and insincere concern. He brushes aside her feelings, declaring that it was her fault and that she must apologize to put the matter to rest. She stands her ground, questioning why she should be the one to apologize. His patience wears thin as he reminds her that he has already been lenient by not punishing her, and he questions her stubbornness. She declares firmly that she was simply seeking justice for herself. She resolves to expose all of her sister's schemes and the harm that was done to her. She asks her father if he truly knows the reason for her rash behavior. His expression shows a flicker of interest as he tells her to explain. She begins to recount the events at the temple a few days prior. Just as she gets to the part about breaking the jade bangle, her older sister, Qianzu, makes a timely entrance. Qianzu gracefully pays her respects to their father. Their father's demeanor softens instantly as he calls his favored daughter over. She puts on a charming display, apologizing for her lateness and coquettishly asking him not to punish her. He beams at her, praising her as a filial child and assuring her he would never punish her. The protagonist rolls her eyes, annoyed at the blatant favoritism. Her sister turns to her with a sweet but false greeting. With a predatory smile, Qianzu asks if she was also paying respects to their father. The protagonist yawns dismissively, retorting that she's not as strategically timely as her older sister. Qianzu invades her personal space, asking what exciting things she was discussing with their father. She lies smoothly, claiming they were just talking about the days she was missing. Her sister internally scoffs, vowing to prevent the truth from ever reaching their father. She addresses their father, suggesting that now that the family is reunited, they should not dwell on such depressing incidents. The protagonist immediately counters that her sister is likely the one who doesn't want to bring it up. Her father sides with his favored daughter, officially forbidding anyone from mentioning the incident again. The protagonist seethes internally, frustrated that he is once again silencing her. She is disgusted by his clear and unwavering bias. She sees it coming from a mile away. Her sister is preparing to launch into a grand, dramatic performance. Kaian-zu begins her act, expressing how wonderful it is to be reunited. She then begins to cry, claiming her heart aches whenever she thinks of their mother's injuries. The protagonist recognizes the calculated performance, knowing her sister came fully prepared. Their father tries to comfort Kaian-zu, telling her not to be upset. Kaian-zu masterfully shifts the blame, suggesting the younger sister must have been displeased with their mother's teachings, leading her to cause harm. Her father immediately turns on the protagonist, scolding her for being insolent and causing harm to her mother and sister. The protagonist notes the bitter irony. He treats one like a perfect daughter Khan and the other like a complete stranger. Kaian-zu adds to the drama, lamenting that their mother is bedridden from blood loss and wishing she could suffer in her place. The protagonist can only admire the increasing skill of her sister's acting. Her sister pins the blame on her, arguing that since the incident happened in her room, she must be involved. The protagonist calmly admits she never denied her involvement. She mimics her sister's sorrow, claiming her own heart aches for the mother of the household. She then declares it her duty as a daughter to personally take care of the madam until she recovers. Her father announces that her punishment will be 3 days of confinement in the study room, which he frames as part of her duty of care. Without protest, she accepts the punishment. With a wave of his hand, he dismisses her from his sight. She reflects that being grounded for 3 days is a far better outcome than the beating she had anticipated. As she leaves, she feels a lingering regret for not being able to expose her sister's evil deeds. Her maid expresses her relief, admitting she was scared for her mistress. The protagonist mutters that if her sister hadn't interfered, she wouldn't have been punished at all. The maid reminds her of the master's favoritism, telling her she was very lucky today. The protagonist concedes that her maid is right. She thanks her maid, admitting that her words have made her feel much better. The maid leads her to a separate building, explaining where she will be grounded. The maid clarifies that the punishment won't take place in her own room. The protagonist laughs nervously, admitting that's what she had thought. Kyu explains that this is the designated place for punishment in the manor. The master has decreed she cannot leave for 3 days, though meals will be provided. She braces herself for 3 days of tedious confinement, a terrible feeling despite the lack of physical punishment. The worst part is the utter lack of modern entertainment, like a phone or Wi-Fi. Her maid tries to console her, promising the 3 days will fly by. Kyu promises to visit when she can before taking her leave. Watching the maid skillfully lock the door, the protagonist deduces that the original Yun Kaiyan-sun must have been locked up here often. Curious, she decides to explore the study room she is confined in. She is delighted to find a room full of books and scrolls, a perfect opportunity to learn about her new world. She realizes she can use this time to understand the culture and knowledge of the dynasty. With a smile, she concludes that this confinement is not a punishment, but a heavenly gift. Her eyes are drawn to a specific volume, a medicine book. Her studies are interrupted by the faint, melancholic sound of a flute. The beautiful melody captures her attention immediately. The music evokes the image of a lonely young man pouring out his heartache. Yet it also carries the passionate pondering of a young woman, a complex and captivating tune. She tries to suppress the powerful emotions the music stirs within her. She is startled as an image of a certain young man flashes through her mind. Frustrated with herself for thinking of him, she throws down her hair accessory. She looks up, realizing the flute music has suddenly stopped. She is surprised to see her younger brother standing outside the window, holding his flute. She urges him to leave, reminding him that he shouldn't be here. He playfully refuses, saying he has no intention of leaving so quickly now that he's here. She asks how he knew where to find her. He dodges the question with a charming smile, simply saying he just knew. He expresses his regret for not having a chance to speak with her properly, telling her how much he missed her. Touched by his sincerity, she reassures him that she is fine now and he doesn't need to worry. He smiles, relieved, saying that seeing her smile is all the assurance he needs. He then mentions hearing that their stepmother and older sister were causing her trouble again. She cautiously asks what else he heard. He recounts the rumors that she hurt the madam and almost disfigured their sister with a dagger. His eyes sparkle with admiration as he declares that she is amazing. She laughs, embarrassed by his praise, and adds a playful warning for him not to try such things. He confesses that he prefers this new, bold version of her, as her past self was too pitiful, and it broke his heart. He asks her what she was like in the past, still seeing her as pitiful. He admits with a gloomy expression that he was pitiful too, for he was unable to protect her. She comforts him, telling him he is still young but will be able to protect her when he grows up. He nods with fierce determination. He places her hand on his chest and vows to be the one who protects her in the future. Later, she looks at the simple meal of rice and a single vegetable with utter disdain. She can sense the ill intent behind this meager meal, a caring gesture from her older sister. She sighs in frustration, feeling she can't endure this treatment any longer. Trapped without any modern distractions, she laments how long and boring the nights are. She misses her maid, Qiuyu, who used to keep her company. As if summoned by her thoughts, Qiuyu appears with warm, steaming buns. She is touched by the gesture, but asks what Qiuyu will eat herself. The maid insists she isn't hungry, and that her mistress should eat. Qiuyu confesses she knew the rice sent earlier was inedible, and brought the buns because she knew her mistress must be starving. Overjoyed and grateful, the protagonist calls her maid an angel. The maid blushes, humbly stating that it is her job to take good care of her. The protagonist insists that her kind maid share the food with her. The maid reflects on her mistress's recent shocking actions, admitting they scared her. Despite the fear, she confesses that watching her mistress stand up for herself felt amazingly good. The protagonist catches her maid grinning and playfully asks her why. The two share a light-hearted moment, their bond growing stronger. 3 days later, the punishment is finally over. The protagonist stretches dramatically, celebrating her newfound freedom. Finally free, she decides to properly explore the beautiful manor she now calls home. Her older sister approaches with a saccharine smile, remarking how terrible it must have been to be grounded. She gives a curt, dismissive reply, stating that it was fine. A plate of exquisitely made desserts is presented, a tempting and sumptuous spread. She asks her maid if she made all these delicious-looking treats herself. She compliments the desserts, eager to try them. Her maid offers her a piece to taste. She is overcome with delight, exclaiming how incredibly sweet, soft, and delicious it is. She showers her talented maid with praise, calling her amazing. After indulging, she lies back, completely stuffed and content. She reflects that this is perhaps the most comfortable and peaceful day she has had since her transmigration. The past few days in the Yun Manor have been surprisingly peaceful. She is beginning to get used to her new life and has a clearer understanding of her family's situation. Her father holds the powerful position of Prime Minister, a key figure in the kingdom's government. Her oldest brother commands the Forbidden Army, a prestigious military position. Together, they control much of the capital's security and political power. She understands that this powerful father-son duo holds significant influence in both civil and military affairs. She begins to understand her father's political ambitions. He plans to solidify his power by marrying his favored daughter, Yun Qianzu, into the royal family. Yun Qianzu is not just a daughter, but a crucial chess piece in her father's grand political strategy. Her sister's unsurpassed beauty makes it natural for their father to dote on her and use her as an asset. Her maid remarks that the minister's bias is now completely understandable. The protagonist feels a sense of relief. She has no desire to compete for a father's love and can now live her life as she pleases. She is startled out of her thoughts by her maid's voice. The maid says she was trying to get her attention, as she seemed to be ignoring her. The protagonist apologizes, explaining she was lost in thought, and learns that the madam has sent for her. She immediately becomes defensive, wondering if her stepmother wants another confrontation. The maid quickly reassures her, explaining that the madam has important information to share. They arrive at a pavilion by the water named Yizinshai. The madam announces that the empress is going to the temple to pray for the crown prince, and the ladies of their manor must accompany her. She issues a stern warning against making any mistakes that could delay the prayers, reminding them of the severe consequences. The protagonist finds it amusing that her stepmother is already anticipating her being late. She correctly deduces that this event is important for the manor's reputation, which is the only reason an unimportant daughter like her would be included. She asks her maid for the reason behind the empress's prayers. Qiuyu explains that the crown prince has been suffering from a strange illness for years, and his recent decline has worried the emperor and empress. The protagonist understands the political gravity of the situation. The crown prince's health is crucial for the kingdom's stability. It is no wonder the empress is taking such drastic measures. She then asks a crucial question: if the current empress is the crown prince's birth mother. Qiuyu clarifies that his mother was the previous empress, making the current one his stepmother. With the political landscape now clearer, the protagonist gets ready. She questions the need to pack so much luggage for what is supposed to be a simple prayer at the temple. Her wise maid explains that one can never be too prepared, as they might end up staying for a few days. It is better to pack everything one might need, just in case. Kyu carefully folds clothes, prepared for any eventuality. The protagonist is deeply touched by her maid's thoughtfulness, once again calling her an angel. She feels incredibly fortunate that the original owner of her body had such a loyal and caring maid. Without her, her situation would have been truly pitiful. She feels blessed to have Kyu by her side. She expresses her affection with a shower of kisses, much to her maid's embarrassment. The maid reminds her that they need to wake up at the third zheng, an ungodly hour. The protagonist is horrified to learn that the third zheng is between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. The journey takes them to the scenic Mount Yunmeng. Their destination is the Grand Fa Yan Temple. Exhausted from the lack of sleep, the protagonist struggles to maintain her composure. She had imagined a pleasant trip, more like a tourist visit than a solemn duty. Instead, she finds herself climbing a mountain on an empty stomach, which feels more like a punishment. She is seated so far back in the crowd that she can't even catch a glimpse of the empress. Tired, hungry, and bored, she feels that this is not a prayer but a form of torture. She wonders if everyone around her is a deity, immune to hunger. She feels utterly moral, weak, and pitiful in this demanding situation. A strange feeling of being watched makes her uncomfortable. She realizes that this entire solemn ceremony is just a performance to please the empress. Looking around at the other ladies, she doubts that any of them are genuinely praying for the crown prince. The prolonged kneeling is causing her legs to go numb. She silently wishes for the tedious ceremony to end. Her older sister notices her fidgeting and sharply tells her to stop looking around. Her sister then interrogates her, demanding to know who she was looking at. She feigns ignorance, replying that she doesn't know. Her sister presses the issue, questioning why she would be looking at a stranger. With a smirk, she gives a simple and honest answer: because he's good-looking. The thought makes her wonder what he is doing at the temple. She glances around, but he seems to have disappeared. After the ceremony, her maid helps her up, and she complains about her aching knees. Her sister scoffs at her lack of decorum. The protagonist pretends to stumble, playfully reaching out to her sister for help. Onlookers gossip about the sister's lack of manners and causing a ruckus. They judge them as ill-mannered and willful, an ugly sight. The protagonist retorts that talking behind people's backs is hardly better. After the meal, she announces she is going for a walk to get away from the stifling atmosphere. She scoffs at the hypocrisy of the so-called ladies. She finds it strange that they were all staring at her during mealtime. The other ladies were gossiping about her strange habit of putting appetizers inside her buns. They were shocked at how wide she could open her mouth to eat. She thinks to herself that if she could, she would have swallowed them all whole. She finds a peaceful spot with a breathtaking view of the capital city. She admires the well-arranged and orderly city of Mengjing. She reflects on how she has been trapped within the Yun Manor since her arrival, unable to explore this new world. She overhears a nearby conversation about the length of their stay at the temple. A lordly voice replies that it all depends on the empress's mood. The first speaker then speculates if the crown prince's condition has worsened. The lord sharply cuts him off, reminding him that they are forbidden to discuss the prince's condition. He states that the royal family's worry is natural, and they should not engage in idle speculation. The protagonist is startled, recognizing the familiar voice of the lord. She realizes it is the same man she had met before. She contemplates whether she should go over and greet him. She decides to approach him cheerfully, acknowledging their chance meeting. The man with the lord reacts with hostility, accusing her of eavesdropping and ordering her death. She is shocked and terrified by the sudden and extreme reaction. Seeing that they are deep in what looks like a serious plot, she decides it's best not to disturb them and quickly retreats. She waves frantically to get her maid's attention from a distance. Kyu rushes over, concerned to find her mistress alone in such a secluded place. The maid urges her to hurry back, as the prayer ceremony is about to start again. The protagonist sighs, finding the endless prayers to be a tedious affair. However, the thought of seeing that mysterious person again brings a small spark of interest to her day. She reflects on the strange, familiar feeling he gives her, remembering he was the first person she met in this world. It is a comforting and familiar closeness. Her sister suddenly confronts her, calling out her name. Her sister demands to know where she has been wandering off to. The protagonist finds the situation oddly reminiscent of being scolded by an angry mother for coming home late. Her sister chastises her for fooling around, reminding her that they are in a sacred temple. She cleverly turns the tables, asking her sister where she disappeared to during mealtime. She teasingly suggests her sister is not in a position to reprimand her, implying she snuck off to eat better food. She sits down to pray, reminding her sister to behave as they are not in their own manner. She gestures for her sister to hurry up and kneel. With mock sincerity, she tells her sister to learn from her example. She quiets down, noticing that they are being watched. She thinks to herself that the temple is indeed a wonderful place. Her maid watches them, amazed that her prayer for the sisters to get along seems to have been answered so quickly. The maid informs her of a message from the Empress that arrived while she was away. The Empress has decided to extend her stay at the temple for a few more days and has made a generous donation. The protagonist immediately sees through the act, realizing the prayer is just a front for a fundraising ploy. It's a clever way to encourage donations by making it seem like a noble cause. She watches as the other madams and ladies begin to make their own donations. The Empress sets a high bar with a large donation, followed by another lady close to her. She is amused by the realization that such fundraising tactics have been used since ancient times. Her maid nervously reminds her that it will be their turn to donate soon. The protagonist is shocked, having not realized she would be expected to donate as well. A wave of panic hits her as she remembers she is completely broke. She questions the need for a personal donation when her stepmother already made one on behalf of the whole manor. Her maid explains that a competitive atmosphere has developed, and donating too little would be embarrassing. The maid expresses her worry, but the protagonist insists that she doesn't mind being laughed at. Knowing her mistress's financial situation, the maid reveals she has saved some money on her behalf. She presents a small silver ingot, worth only 5 yen. The protagonist gently tells her maid that she will not be making a donation. The maid looks at her with concern, not understanding her plan. She explains that they must live within their means, and they cannot afford to give away their only savings. The maid worries about the social repercussions and what the other ladies will say. The protagonist reassures her loyal maid, telling her not to worry and to keep the money, as she has a plan. The donation ceremony continues with another lady making a modest contribution. Her sister, Yun Kaienzu, grandly pledges a donation of 2,000 yen. The other ladies whisper among themselves, admitting they can only afford a fraction of that amount. They cattily label her sister an attention seeker for her extravagant donation. The protagonist smirks, having expected nothing less from her sister. She knows her sister would never miss an opportunity to be in the spotlight, even at the cost of alienating the other ladies. Feeling pressured, the other ladies reluctantly increase their own donation amounts. The protagonist observes this unhealthy competition with disdain. She decides it's time to teach them all a lesson. The young monk politely asks her for the amount she wishes to donate. She announces clearly that she has no intention of donating money. A wave of shock and disbelief ripples through the crowd of ladies. She assures the monk that she is not trying to cause trouble. She pauses for dramatic effect before explaining her true intentions. Her sister interjects, reminding her of her status as a daughter of the Prime Minister. Her sister taunts her, asking if she isn't worried about the shame of not donating. The protagonist calmly replies that the only person who wants to laugh at her is her own dear sister. Her sister's playful denial is so over the top that the protagonist comically imagines a nosebleed. She loudly addresses the entire assembly of ladies. She reminds them that as privileged individuals, their prayers for the crown prince must be sincere and devout. She declares that instead of donating money, she will offer her physical help to the temple as a more sincere prayer. The other ladies are scandalized, thinking she is openly defying the Empress's wishes. She clarifies that she is not against donating. However, she proposes that offering physical labor to help the temple is a more meaningful form of devotion. While most ladies think she is mad, a few find her idea intriguing. The head monk steps forward, agreeing that the lady's point is a reasonable one. Vindicated, she promises to help the temple as much as she possibly can. The monks praise her good heart, comparing her to Buddha. A royal messenger arrives with a decree from the Empress, stating that the crown prince has been moved by her devotion. The messenger announces that anyone else who wishes to help with physical labor is now permitted to do so. Some ladies agree to join her, while others make excuses about their frail health and opt to donate money instead. The protagonist smiles, satisfied that everyone has now made their own choice. The other ladies praise her cleverness, noting how she solved her financial problem while also gaining favor with the Empress. Her sister is furious, silently cursing the other ladies as idiots for letting her steal the spotlight. Her maid congratulates her on a job well done. The protagonist mentally congratulates herself on finding a perfect solution to her dilemma. A familiar voice interrupts her thoughts, asking if she is slacking off already. She turns, annoyed, and tells the person to mind their own business. The prince, Murongzio, teases her, reminding her of her pledge to pray with her own labor. She is pleasantly surprised and happy to see that it is him. She admits that she was not expecting to meet him here. She takes the opportunity to properly apologize for her abrupt departure the last time they met. Her concern then shifts to him as she asks about the condition of his injuries. He blushes slightly, assuring her that his injuries have healed. She presses further, offering to prescribe medicine if any scars remain. He quickly changes the subject, clearly embarrassed by her medical questions. She addresses him as Mr., realizing after all this time, she still doesn't know his name. She recalls that the emperor has 5 sons, including the now-deceased crown prince. She muses that she has no idea which of the remaining princes he could be. It dawns on her that despite their encounters, a formal introduction has never been made. She realizes she must finally ask for his name. He formally introduces himself as Prince Zhao, Murongzio. She is momentarily stunned, then offers a formal apology for any previous rudeness. She expresses her sincere gratitude to him for saving her life. She playfully dismisses her own actions as simple doctor's instinct. She humbly states that it was her honor to have been able to save him. He questions her motives for her performance during the donation ceremony, asking if it was truly sincere. She is taken aback by his direct and somewhat suspicious question. He clarifies, asking if she acted from the heart or simply because she was embarrassed about not having money to donate. She is flustered by his playful and teasing tone. He correctly guesses her predicament, citing her known status as the unloved daughter of a concubine. She complains that it was rude of him to say it out loud, even if he had already figured it out. He changes the subject, asking how she has been faring at home. She puts on a brave face, thanking him for his concern and assuring him that life in the mansion is fine. He accepts her answer, simply stating that it is good to hear. An awkward silence falls between them as they stand in the blooming garden. She feels flustered by his close proximity, calling him a little duckling in her thoughts. He brings up the topic of a reward for saving him, asking what she wishes for. She deftly avoids the question, pretending to be busy with her task of cleaning the courtyard. He observes her, thinking that her pure and honest personality is a refreshing change from the other ladies he knows. He points out that the courtyard is already clean, questioning why she is still sweeping. She explains that the previous conversation was too serious, and she needed a simple task to occupy her mind. He invites her to sit and talk, confessing that there is something he doesn't understand. Her curiosity piqued, she asks what it is. He asks her a pointed question. Where did she learn her exceptional medical skills? He adds that her skills seem to surpass even those of the doctors from the prestigious Thai hospital. She is caught off guard, struggling to come up with a plausible explanation. Seeing her hesitation, he kindly tells her that it is fine if she does not wish to answer. She bows gratefully, thanking him for his understanding. She thinks to herself that it is better not to reveal too much, given his high status and the dangers he faces. She is momentarily distracted by his stunning beauty, marveling at how unfair heaven can be. He snaps her out of her daze, asking what she is thinking about. He then tells her that he has a favor to ask of her. She cautiously asks what it is, telling him to state his request. He asks for her help in treating the crown prince's illness. She immediately recognizes this as a significant opportunity. She is excited by the prospect of finally being able to put her medical skills to the test. She frames the decision in her mind like a choice in a game. Option 1 offers fame, fortune, and an end to her suffering by saving the prince. Option 2 involves rejecting his request, which would damage their relationship. Rejecting him would mean returning to her miserable life as a bullied and powerless young miss. She pretends not to have heard his question, hoping to buy some time. He presses her for an answer. She apologizes, stating that she does not believe she is capable of saving the crown prince. His crestfallen expression fills her with a pang of guilt. However, she stands by her decision, knowing the risks are too high since she is unfamiliar with the prince's illness. Failure would not only bring trouble upon herself, but also upon the prince who recommended her. Furthermore, no one in her own family is even aware of her medical abilities. She feels genuinely bad about having to refuse him. In a surprising move, she reaches out her hand as if to introduce someone. He is confused by her sudden change in behavior, wondering what she is up to. She points out her approaching sister, feigning surprise at the presence of a gentleman. She introduces her stepsister, the prized golden daughter of the prime minister. Her sister gracefully introduces herself as Yun Kaian-zu. The protagonist is bewildered by her sister's sudden transformation into a soft and demure lady. Her sister's dark inner thoughts reveal a cruel desire to make her work like an insect. The protagonist plays along with exaggerated enthusiasm, submitting to her queen. She finds the entire situation deeply unsettling and strange. The prince acknowledges her sister's famed beauty, confirming that she deserves her title. Her sister blushes and thanks him for the praise. The protagonist is shocked when her sister suddenly trips on the perfectly flat ground. The prince instinctively moves to help, calling for her to be careful. The protagonist is determined not to let this cliché, cringeworthy scene play out. She catches her sister first, asking if she is all right. Her sister thanks her for the save, blaming her own carelessness. The protagonist pointedly asks her sister if she needs something. Her sister claims she was worried and came to help with the cleaning. The prince observes the interaction, remarking that such sisterly care is a rare sight. Her sister insists she cannot stand by, while her younger sister cleans the entire courtyard alone. The protagonist dismisses her offer, stating the courtyard is already clean and that her sister's frail body shouldn't be exerted. Her sister advises her to take care of her own body as well. With a final glance at the prince, her sister gracefully takes her leave. The prince wishes her a safe journey. He is clearly captivated by her beauty, thinking that any man would fall in love with her after such a masterful display. The protagonist tries to snap him out of his reverie. She asks him what he is thinking about so intently. She teasingly asks if he is already smitten with her sister. He denies it, claiming he was merely thinking about their sibling relationship and how it makes him jealous. She is flustered, thinking he must be joking about being jealous of her relationship with her sister. He explains that his own relationships with his brothers are fraught with murder and plots. She thinks to herself that the sentiment is relatable, as her own sister also wants to kill her. 3 days later, the protagonist is utterly exhausted from the prolonged prayer vigil, which involved little sleep and meager food. Her maid informs her that their tedious days of prayer will be over soon. She looks back at the temple, eager to finally leave. Back in the carriage, she is excited to return to the mansion, but shivers with a strange premonition. A sudden sound from outside catches her attention. It is Prince Zhao, who announces that he is there to personally escort her back. The madam, watching from her own carriage, is instantly infatuated. She offers a formal thanks to His Highness for his trouble. She wonders to herself why a prince would personally escort them. Her suspicions are aroused when she sees him slowing his horse to ride alongside her daughter Kaian-zu's carriage. She is delighted, believing her daughter has successfully captured the prince's attention, just as she would have in her youth. Her daughter, Kaian-zu, believes everything is proceeding according to her plan. She peeks out of her carriage, looking for the prince. The madam's expression sours as she realizes the prince is not looking at Kaian-zu's carriage. She is shocked and confused to see him approaching Kaian-zun's carriage instead. The protagonist, oblivious to the drama, is happily thinking about the sweets her maid will make for her. She cheerfully asks the prince if he is there to see her home. He calls her stupid, but admits he would not feel good if she were to get lost again. She smiles to herself, seeing through his gruff exterior and knowing he is there for her. She confidently promises him that she is not stupid enough to get lost again. He warns her to keep her head inside the carriage for safety. She brushes off his concern, assuring him that it's no problem. He directs her attention to her older sister, who seems to want to speak with him. The protagonist suspects her sister is about to try another scheme. She tells the prince she will go see what her sister wants. The prince rides up to the eldest Mrs. Carriage to inquire what she needs. She thanks him profusely for looking after her sister and for personally escorting them. She offers thanks on behalf of her little sister, acting as the dutiful older sibling. The prince begins to speak about his adventure with Yun Kaian-zun. He catches himself just in time, remembering her request to keep their first meeting a secret. Her sister, sensing a story, asks what he was about to say. He dismisses it as nothing, successfully keeping the secret. The protagonist watches their prolonged conversation, assuming he will be occupied for a while. After the dramatic events at the temple, life in the manor has become peaceful, almost to the point of being boring. Her days consist of sleeping, reading medical texts, and having little else to do. She decides it's time to liven things up and sneak out for an adventure. She stealthily approaches a conversation between her father and oldest brother about the palace. Her brother reports that with the crown prince's worsening illness, all the ministers are flocking to the eastern palace. Her father cautions against haste, advising that they should observe the situation before making any moves. The protagonist listens from the shadows, concerned by their political plotting. She recalls Prince Zhao's request for her to help save the crown prince. She wonders if she could have changed the course of events if she hadn't refused him, but she pushes the thought away, feeling powerless to interfere in such high-stakes matters. Her brother warns that inaction might displease the emperor. Her father remains steadfast, outlining his strategy to remain neutral and align with whichever prince is newly appointed. Her brother accepts his father's cunning political lesson. She sees them not as loyal subjects, but as opportunists waiting to back the winning horse. However, she understands their cautious approach is a matter of self-preservation in the dangerous world of court politics. The conversation ends with her father telling her brother to go and rest. She waits until they have both departed before emerging from her hiding place. Her oldest brother suddenly appears behind her, startling her. She is shocked by his silent and sudden appearance. He turns her own question back on her, asking when she arrived. She lies unconvincingly, claiming she was just passing by. He gives her a stern warning that in their manor, some conversations are best left unheard. He correctly guesses her intention to sneak out and confronts her about it. She nervously denies having any such plans. He tells her to return to her duties then. He adds a final admonition that a proper lady should not be sneaking out. She finds her oldest brother to be incredibly sharp and difficult to deal with. Defeated, she decides it's best to abandon her plan to go out for the day. Shortly after, news arrives that the crown prince has passed away, plunging the country into a period of mourning. 2 months pass, and the sorrow over the prince's death begins to fade from public memory. The madam asks her husband why he is suddenly free to watch flowers with her. He explains the mourning period is over and immediately turns his thoughts to the now vacant position of crown prince. The madam remarks on how shocked the emperor must have been by his son's death. The prime minister reveals the emperor's plan to observe the 4 remaining princes before choosing a successor. The madam worries that this political uncertainty will further delay their daughter Kayan Zhu's marriage prospects. He reassures his wife, confident that their daughter is a phoenix among women. He boldly predicts that she is destined to become the mother of the country one day. The madam sighs, accustomed to his ambitious declarations. She reflects on how close their daughter was to marrying the crown prince, and how she would be a widow now if she had. He confesses that he knew of the prince's declining health, and deliberately stopped the empress from arranging the marriage. The madam expresses her anxiety about their daughter's advancing age and the need to secure her future. He argues that he cannot marry her off randomly when there is no clear successor to the throne. He assures his wife that their daughter is a top-quality lady who is highly sought after, and he will not rush such an important decision. She urges him to discover the emperor's intentions quickly so they can formulate their own plans. He agrees, promising his dear wife that he will handle it. The maid asks her mistress if they are really going through with their plan to sneak out. The protagonist winks reassuringly, promising to take full responsibility if they get caught. Now outside the manor walls, the maid expresses her excitement, and her mistress confirms their adventure is real. The protagonist is reminded of her last trip out, when she was with Murong Zio. The memory of her sister's sudden appearance that day makes her recall the rouge she had wanted to buy. She asks Qiuyu if she knows of any shops that sell good rouge. The maid is delighted by her mistress's interest in cosmetics and happily agrees to take her to a shop. They enter a shop filled with a wide variety of items. She approaches the shopkeeper, ready to make a purchase. She points to a beautifully decorated case of rouge that catches her eye. The shopkeeper praises her choice, confirming it is one of their finest products. She turns to her maid for a second opinion. The maid assures her that this is the best shop in the city, so the quality is guaranteed. When she asks for the price, she is shocked to learn it costs 10 liang of silver. She is outraged by the exorbitant price, exclaiming that it amounts to robbery. She reflects that the shopkeeper is greedy, as 20 liang is enough for a small family to survive on. The shopkeeper is unfazed, telling her to choose a cheaper option if she finds it too expensive. The loyal maid whispers that the money she saved for her is just enough to afford it. A new customer's servant interrupts, declaring that his master will be buying that specific rouge. She confronts the newcomer, reminding him of the principle of first come, first served. The shopkeeper, seeing a wealthier customer, immediately offers to package the item for him. She protests, stating that she never said she wasn't going to buy it. The shopkeeper smugly replies that since she clearly cannot afford it, he will sell it to someone who can. She insists that she saw it first. The shopkeeper challenges her, stating that unless she can produce 10 liang immediately, he will not sell it to her. At that moment, the new customer, a nobleman, steps forward, stating he was going to gift the rouge to this gentleman anyway.